interesting about this study, one of the things, is that we're all here, I think even the most inexperienced teachers here, we're all familiar with Millerite history. We all could do a basic overview, 1798, 1816, 1818, 31, 33, 40, May 42, June 42. We understand all of those dates. And it's so easy to think we have a good understanding of the Millerite line. And then you come to a study like this, and you see that we can focus for a couple of hours just on a small portion of that line, and we haven't even begun to exhaust it yet. We didn't go into the 300s, see what implications they had in that history. We haven't even read Fitch's article and understood what that, the details of what that means. So I want us to see that reform lines really are an important aspect of our message, and in many ways we've paid them lip service. I've been to prophecy schools where people don't want to, not only teachers don't want to present reform lines, but the organisers don't want reform lines even presented, because they want what they would call the cutting edge or the advanced or the new material. And I'm saying all of that thinking is, I'm suggesting, at least at one level, wrong. So I want us to think about the import of what we've been looking at when we think about the Millerite reform line. We spent a lot of time looking at that, and hopefully you're beginning to see, like I am, that there's many things that we can put into place that we haven't perhaps understood before, and you can do that not by knowing the dates, because we know all of these dates. It's by running the story through them and trying to identify structures. And sometimes you're walking along a path and you stumble over a rock, and you think it's a rock, but it actually ends up being a treasure. You brush it off and you see that there's this beautiful gem. Just in this little statement from 248, in early writings, tucked there, people ignore it, it's just two sentences, and you can see how much light it begins to generate when you do that. GC 611, what did we do with GC 611? We produced all of this, and that wasn't the whole of the paragraph, it was only a part of the paragraph. So I really want us to begin to recognise how important it is to read carefully and to think about what we're reading. And when we do that, not to fall into movement thinking. And what I mean by movement thinking is, when Ellen White lines up 1840 with the Sunday law, she doesn't mean 9/11 and the Sunday law. She doesn't mean August 11, 1840, the angel of first angel comes down, this angel that lightens the earth with his glory, is not Revelation 18. You can't just go restraint of Islam, 9/11, and Revelation 18 comes down and expect to generate truth like this. It doesn't happen that way. I'm not saying you can't make application. You can. It's not the point I'm making. But what I want us to see, if we read carefully, how much truth we can glean. Truth that's waiting there to be discovered and to be found. So, even if you don't remember all the details of what we've studied, even if you can't read your notes and you think, it was good but I don't remember the details, remember one thing about what we've done when you leave this school. It's the methodology or the idea or the strictness, the self-control that we should have to read carefully, not to jump out of a statement and go somewhere else, not to approach it with preconceived ideas. Like Miller in 1818, when you think, I'm the only person in the world that sees Review and Herald, July 6th, July 4th, 5th, 1906, that you might be the only person in the world who looks at that way. So be it. Spend some more time studying. Look at it. Don't share it with people, but don't fight against common sense and all of us should be honest. And what I mean by honesty is we should have intellectual honesty. Everyone here can read, and we all have a degree of intelligence. Not that we're all equally intelligent. Everyone acknowledges that. Some people are more clever than others. But we all have a degree of intelligence, and we should not throw those away at the expense of dogma. And what I mean by dogma, I mean bigotry. You started your evening classes at this school with the 14th rule of William Miller. And we should not be bigots, we should not be, at least I think that's what you did, following the thoughts of other men. And it's so easy to do that. I'm not saying we should be original. I'm not saying we should cause trouble unnecessarily, but we should be thoughtful in what we're doing. The other thing I want us to always think about, it's okay to do private studies, they're good, they're even necessary. But in my experience, the light comes out when you come together. If you start tracking when the light started really coming out in our movement, it happened when we created Schools of the Prophets. It didn't happen when we were doing prophecy schools. We call them prophecy schools, but often they don't actually fulfill even the very title of the name. They're not schools. They're places where you sit and people tell you what is right and what is wrong. That is not a place of education, in my opinion. You might think differently. So, we're going to look at the Millerite line now. Not the first angel, but the second angel. So let's have a look at that and see what we can glean. I guess we could have sort of done it one underneath the other, line upon line style, but we'll put them next to each other. So what are our three waymarks that we're going to start with? Past, present and future. A little bit louder so that they can hear you. April the 19th. We'll still stick with the summer without being definite. And October 22nd. Is everybody okay? They understand what my brother's just done based upon what we've studied? Yes? So we've got 1798, 40, April, and then we've got April, summer, October 44. So we could get this and put it underneath, and then we can begin to get parallel lines. What I want us to be cautious of, when we start putting things underneath one another, and in essence what we're saying then is April the 19th is 1798, we need to be careful what that means. Does that mean that April 19th actually is 1798? No, it doesn't mean that. It means that they share similar characteristics. This is not the same, at least the way I would look at this, this is not the same as 1798 and 1989, or 4 BC, or 536 BC. It's not the same kind of line upon line or parallelism. What we're doing is we're getting concepts and ideas and overlaying them one on top of the other to first expound our understanding of what the midnight cry looks like. So that's one purpose of doing it. And the other purpose is to verify that what we're teaching here is actually true. So we're looking for second or tertiary witnesses. But this is not line upon line in its classic sense. I haven't worked out some kind of rule or guidance to know when it is and when it isn't. But I want us to see, hopefully, we can see that this is not the true way of doing these things. We're not saying, let's get to a Bible verse like Daniel 11 and line up these two waymarks. Does that make sense? I'm not even trying to do fractals. I'm not trying to do 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3 and say this is a fractal of this, or I'm not even trying to do any of that. I know we could, sometimes we do. In fact, if you go to the chart booklet, if you have a copy of that, or the Millerite reform line, isn't that what they do? The movement, they call this the line of... Sorry? Does everybody know what chart I'm talking about if I did this? Yeah? What do they call this? Sister Emma? And this? And this? So that's how this picture work has been described. I'm not saying this is wrong, but we've created a very similar structure, and I'm not approaching it from that perspective. Approaching it in a totally different way, or we are, and we've got new truths. So if you're familiar with that chart structure, hopefully you can see what we're creating here. It has a similar structure, but the implications are different. So we'll begin here with a midnight cry. And what's the midnight cry going to do for us? It's going to help us to understand the past. And we're already going to identify, okay, so this is the past, this is the present, this is the future. We know that this is 1A, and we know that this is 2A. We're going to start, maybe we're going to call it an assumption, but I'm going to state that as a fact. It's 2A, second angel's message arrived. How does this message here help us to understand the past? How does the midnight cry message help us to understand the past? When we were in this history, we said there are things that are going on that helped us to understand what was happening here. So there was this sort of verification that this could help us to see that the first angel's message was a true message. So I want us to think about it in the past, not in the present. We'll do the present one in a minute. I want us to say, what is it teaching us about April the 19th here? In the summer.
It's confirming the prediction that was made in April 19 was a correct one, because the same logic or the same methodology, well, let me use the same methodology that was used to predict April 19th, that is the end of the 1843 Jewish year, is the same methodology that is used to predict or used to come up with the midnight cry message. And we have already looked in that history previously and seen that Samuel Snow uses some of the logical principles that William Miller himself had put up when he was making his prediction. So when we come to the midnight cry, we see that whatever we understood in April 19th is right.
So What I want us to see when we say we understand the past, we're going to go back to the past, it's only 3 months, and we're going to say something happened there, and that this is going to help us understand what happened. So, what kind of things were happening here?
We made the midnight to understand that entered the dying time.
So, here there's a tarrying time, and the tarrying time is produced by what? Okay, who else had their hand up? Brother?
It says that it was a mission to make them understand the second hand.
That's right, but I want us to try and think conceptually what that means as opposed to what the statement says.
I can try and give another thought. They understood that the vision did not tarry as they had thought, though it had seemed to tarry. The vision was real.
So there's a tarrying time, but it seemed to tarry because it says it. It says it does not tarry. So. Robert?
So, in the past structure, you had something happening in 1840 that convinced them that the past was correct. When you come to summer, I remember an interaction that Samuel Snow is having with the people as he's presenting the message before the birth of come. And he takes them to the story of the 10 virgins and tells them that there's a tarrying time that happens at the beginning of the evening or the night, and then at the middle of the night, at midnight, there's a cry. And so he like takes them through an analogy and tells them how long is supposed to be, is the tarrying time supposed to be 6 months? How long have we been in the tarrying time? And then he tells them we are here at the midnight cry. So he's telling them we are here at the midnight cry. This is confirming that indeed we have been in the tarrying time from April 19th. Based on the fact that I'm giving this sermon midway between.
So it's still connected with the tarrying. All these are tarrying time concepts. This is also tarrying. So tarrying time begins at the night or sunset, and it's going to begin to explain that here by saying that was sunset, and then this is midnight. So he's going to begin to create a structure. He's going to say this darkness that came upon us, Ellen White calls it a cloud, he's going to begin to explain with a parable of Matthew 25. Is that what you're saying? Yep. Anything else? What else is happening to these people? What are they experiencing in April?
They are in disappointment now. They have to review.
So they've got disappointment.
They have to review the past where they went through. There is some miscalculations that they did on this, something that they do not understand. That's why
He's already done all of that, but I want us to think about, he explains all of these things that you went through. I'm going to explain why we went through them, why they happened. That's what this is going to do. It's going to explain the past. So I know they have to go through a review period, but the review period isn't necessarily explaining why those things happened.
What about Ezra 7 9? I don't know whether in August he understands whether it's the first or the fifth month, but probably he can use it to point them back and tell them the reason why Christ did not come is because on the first of the first month in natural sense was the coming out of the Bible.
So they already know this is the first of the first month back here. They already know that. Samuel Snow didn't even do that work. Other men did that work. So they already know the first of the first month. So this again, it's this tarrying time. I'll put it in parentheses because it's not Matthew 25 now. This is Ezra 7. Now they can explain why Christ didn't come, because Ezra 7, which is the first of the first month, what's not happening? It's not the restoration. It's not the restoration of Jerusalem. What is it?
Judgment.
From what they're doing?
Judgment.
Revelation 18, verse 4. This is Revelation 18, verse 4 is being fulfilled here. They're coming out of Babylon. So Ezra 7 is going to help them to explain that this event here was Revelation 18, verse 4. And they've already got Revelation 18, verse 4 here. And what was the purpose of this article? Prepare for what? For the coming out of Babylon. So you can mark the coming out of Babylon from Ezra 7. So can we see that? Yeah? The more you think about it, the more you realise that there's actually quite a bit of stuff that's going on here that is really explaining their experience. So I want us to, when we're approaching this, is to try and be true to what the intent of Ellen White is. To try and understand what happened here to do this. I just want to add, when we did this one, we didn't really do that properly. Just want to make sure that you saw that. We created this structure and we were pretty loose. We just did days for a year. We didn't go, what is happening in 1798? It's something to do with the papacy, something to do with France, something to do with the United States, something to do with revolutions. There's all of this happening here, and what was going to be talked about here is now we're going to explain what does those revolutions mean, what does it mean about the papacy receiving a deadly wound, what does it mean about the role of France, the King of the South. That's what should begin to be understood here in 1840 if we were going to do it in this rigorous fashion. So we kind of did it light, even though we said that was really strong to bring us to this one. Because now you can see a lot of things. What else is happening in April?
It's light. The quotation is saying that God gave them light, and also there's a separation.
Separation. I understand the history, but I want us to try and, when we think about the light, do they even have any light here? Not really, but they have all this negative stuff. They're expecting something to happen. So, for instance, why didn't Christ come here? You just left Babylon here. You're not even beginning to restore Jerusalem. So, this one here, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 and 5, these two are connected. What we're doing is we're going into this history and we're explaining what happened, why it looked like it did. Why didn't Jesus come? He couldn't come because you haven't even restored Jerusalem yet. That's why he can't come. So it's explaining their experience. They didn't have an experience of light. They never experienced that. So he can't go in and say, let me explain to you why you had all that glorious light and you're enjoying yourselves. And you had these beautiful Bible studies. Because they didn't have that. So I don't think we can put light, even though we mark that light happens there. Do you understand the difference, the distinction? Here, they've got a disappointment. We call the disappointment the tarrying time. He's going to explain why there's a disappointment. There's a disappointment because something went wrong. And that's what the explanation is. Here, you explain it.
What about when you come to April 19th and the Reverend times of Christ fails to come as they expected on the 18th? There is a persecution that comes from their former churches.
So, there's a mocking and there's a persecution. And these people are asking, why would Christians treat us like this? Why would they become so evil and wicked? What did we do wrong? All we had is a Bible verse wrong. Why would people be so horrible to us? It's inexplainable. why do you fall out between yourselves if you don't agree with a Bible verse? Why does our church disfellowship us because we say we like the 25-20 and we want to make it the longest time prophecy and you say it's not? But if we ate meat, no one would complain, everybody would be happy. If we broke into the edges of Sabbath, it wouldn't be a big deal. But all we believe is in some esoteric discussion about some number that someone spoke about, and you're going to disfellowship over that. It doesn't make sense why people would be so cruel and wicked to disfellowship us over a number. So here, they're being mocked, they're being persecuted. Everybody says they want Jesus to return. Everybody says they love Jesus. So these people say, we love Jesus and we thought he was coming today, and he's not. We made a mistake. Why are you being so horrible to us? So, why were they being horrible to them? How are they going to understand that experience? Why do the people turn upon them like ravaging dogs?
It's the experience of the everlasting gospel. In the sense that this truth as it comes to them, the rejectors of this truth, it arouses animosity and antagonization because it interferes with their sinful heart. But the other class submits to the control of that truth. Yeah.
So, the everlasting gospel, there's an outpouring of the Spirit, both satanic and righteous, Holy Spirit. Anyone else?
I think at that point, when they're mocking them, those who mock always will persecute, they think they're doing a great service to God. And so they become so zealous in doing it.
So the mocking and persecution, they're doing it because they think that they're serving God. And we read that here, Agnes moving illustrated. What were these ministers and leaders shouting? God is, we have. So that's what's driving this.
So I think when we come to the summer, these brethren whom they were with initially were persecuting them. Their Babylon which has been fallen, meaning they're serving the enemy. That's why all that animosity was manifested towards them. They understand that at the summer.
So this is the everlasting gospel. I will put enmity in the heart of your seed against his seed, and vice versa. So that persecution, that hatred is about the everlasting gospel, because they've now become two kingdoms being demonstrated here. So again, it's not Revelation 4, 18:4, but it's 2 and 3. This is Babylon beginning to become the cage of every hateful bird. Things are beginning to go from bad to worse. In the Great Controversy, it talks about Protestant commentators were noticing something happened in 1844. What did they notice?
Moral fall.
They noticed there was a moral fall. This is not anything to do with the movement. Leading Christian evangelists were noticed in that. They talk about a declension in the church, a moral fall, and they said it was unexplainable. And it's unexplainable because these people have no idea about this movement. They can't make the connection. They just look at their congregation and something's gone wrong. Like the Holy Spirit seems to be withdrawn from them in some supernatural fashion. And when that happens, when the Holy Spirit takes his restraint away, we know that the human passion, the wickedness in a human being, can do all manner of evil. Mocking and persecution, it explains it through the language of Revelation 18. Again, Revelation 18 is all about this second angel. I'm not trying to talk about empowerment or arrival, but just the concept of what the second angel is teaching us. Brother Robert.
We think about a lot of political controversy 376.
Great controversy 376.
Yeah, which says that as his work tended to build, he was opposed to both from the pulpit and etc. And it says that when they go to the summer, they saw that those who are revealing the truth will not be considered as the church of God, the pillar and ground of truth. And so they felt themselves justified to leave the churches. So when it comes to summer, they can really see that these people are divorced from God because they have no love for the truth and they feel justified to separate. It says something like that.
So, in the summer, they're going to go back and they're going to see that this is no longer the pillar and the ground,
Yeah, of truth.
the pillar and the ground of truth, and so therefore, this history will, when they've understood that, now they can know what to do in the present.
Yeah, and even in that, at summer, they can see this enmity having heightened to such points that they are now convinced that we need to separate from this.
We've got 1, 2, 3, we've got lots of points here, but they all seem to be clustering around three Bible passages. Ezra 7, Revelation 18, or 14, depending on which way we're going to look at it, and Matthew 25. So those passages help to explain what's going on here. So we've got Matthew 25, we've got Ezra 7, and we've got Revelation 18. So before Brother Rogers makes his point, Matthew 25, what's that teaching us? What's Matthew 25 teaching us?
Matthew 25, Ezra 7, and Revelation, they all have one component.
I want to do one at a time, then we can tie them together. What's Matthew 25 teaching?
Going out.
Sorry?
They're going out.
Not the going out. Matthew 25. There's no bridegroom coming in April. Tarrying time. There's a delay. There's some kind of problem. So there was a problem here. Now they're going to explain why there was a problem. So that's Matthew 25, the problem, the disappointment. Ezra 7. What's Ezra 7 going to teach us, Brother Andrew? Come out of her. They're coming out of Babylon. They can see that the church had become Babylon and they're supposed to come out. Plus, when they're coming out of Babylon, what has not happened? First day of the first month, they've come out of Babylon. Revelation 18:4. What hasn't happened yet? According to Ezra. They leave on the first day of the first month. Where are they going? For what purpose? So what hasn't happened here? The restoration hasn't happened. And in the context of their message, the restoration is the second advent. The cleansing of the sanctuary is all going to be restored. Because Daniel 8:14 is not the cleansing of the sanctuary, it's the restoration of the sanctuary. We can argue that equally well. The word says restoration, they're interchangeable synonyms. So they're coming out of Babylon, and it's not yet time for Jerusalem to be restored yet. So they can explain that Christ could never have come back, because Ezra 7 says he can't come back. First you have to go to the 5th month, and he's not even going to come back in the 5th month. You have to wait a few more months, take you to the Autonomous Feast, so they can explain that. Revelation 18. What does Revelation 18 say?
Come out.
Come out. A little bit more. It's right.
Come out of her.
No, not the little bit more of the verse. Some contextual, from some of these points. Here, Matthew 25, there's a tarrying time, there's a disappointment. Christ, he can't come back yet. Ezra 7, Jerusalem hasn't been restored yet. Revelation 18, For sure it's come out. I'm just looking for some broader meaning or some more contextual wording to just come out.
Okay. There is a coming out of Babylon, and then the reason why is that since these congregations are fallen, so they have to come out of her, so that they don't partake of the punishment that is coming to these fallen people.
Okay?
I'm using this word because it has become the habitation of a full body. So they have to come out.
Explain a bit more about that, verse 3. Verse 2 and 3. Explain a bit more. You don't have to read the verses, just explain what you mean by that.
So those churches, they were mocking at them, and persecuting them because of the truth that they were having. So they were to separate from them.
Okay, so you picked up the mocking, the persecution, now go to the verse to explain it. What you just said. Don't have to read the verse because you know the verse. Said the cage and all of that. What does that mean?
It means they have rejected the truth.
They've
They have rejected the truth. And when the Spirit of God, it is the Spirit of God has left them.
And the verse says what? Cage? For what? What is a cage for?
They're full birds.
Cage is for birds. What else does it say?
Habitation of devil.
You have a hold or a box or a container for what?
For devil.
Evil what?
Spirit.
The spirits. So, tidy it up now. Mocking the persecution. You've got all the pieces, I just wanted to put it into a statement.
So, those churches, they have rejected the truth and they were mocking mocking and persecuting the faithful.
Why? Why are they mocking and persecuting? Now the verse, why are they mocking and persecuting?
Because they have become part of Babylon and they are yeah.
Okay, my brother?
They are being controlled by evil spirit.
Because now they're being controlled by evil spirits. You have all the pieces there. So the reason they're doing this, they look like Christians. They say they're doing it in God's name. We're serving God. We need to teach you people. But the reality is what? They're being controlled by demons. His blood be upon us and upon our children. They think that is God's service. One man ought to die, that whole nation be saved. So, Revelation 18, they've become Babylon, and they're going to mock and persecute, think they're serving God, but they're serving demons. So, we agree that it's become we'll leave it at that level there. Revelation 18:2 happens there. It's full and complete, but they don't voice it until they get to the summer. But it's all happening here, if we're okay with that. So we've done that. We've done Ezra 7. It's not the restoration because it's the first day of the first month. Because what have they just done? They've just come out of Babylon, just like Pitcher told them. It doesn't tarry, so there's no mistake. This is Habakkuk. We could have gone into Habakkuk, I guess. Someone do this one. Sunset. Someone do that one. Which passage are we going to go to?
Can't see the writings.
Can't see the writing. Carrying time. it's the night time, and this was sunset because this is midnight. What passage is that? Sorry? Matthew? That's Matthew 25. Explain that. Just briefly, we don't have to do the detail of all the calculations, just briefly. What can you see in Matthew 25?
The virgins are waiting for the bridegroom to come, but they do not know that the bridegroom is to tarry. And therefore, when the bridegroom tarried, the night came now and they start sleeping. So it was the very time they were expecting for Christ to come and did not come, that was not the night in which they were beginning to sleep.
How do we know it's night time?
Is when the very truth that they were proclaiming is now becoming dark to them that they cannot understand.
In the parable.
In the parable.
You're using Millerite logic then. How do you know it's night time in the parable?
We are told that there is lumber and slave. And you cannot sleep during the day.
Put your hands up because you can't sleep during the day. I can manage it. Brother Wilson.
Being based upon parables are really very important. So if you go to the Eastern marriage, they happen during the evening.
Okay, how do you know that in the parable? Because that's Ellen White's commentary. Christotic lessons. Sorry? They have lamps. All carrying lamps. You don't carry lamps in the daytime. So I put Habakkuk 2 there. Habakkuk 2 was the tarrying time as well. I suppose you can get that from that. So they're going to use these Bible verses, or we can use the Bible verses as they did, to explain the experience. Are we okay with that? Yeah? You know, sometimes we should say, this is get really excited, I'll never do that. So sometimes I think some of these really important things, we just think, oh yeah, that looks pretty good, let's just sort of move on. But this is really important, profound stuff, I think. I think it's easy not to see the significance of what this means. And the reason, let me tell you my approach on this thing, if it's of any value to you. If you're doing a study, what's the goal of this study? What's the goal of all of our studies? Because you could say make your personal preparation, but without thinking about our personal benefit. Is it not to explain and show people that we're at the end of the world and need to get ready? So the goal is to explain our line, yeah? I think we should be spending 90% of the time in the past and 10% in the explanation. And I've noticed that we don't do that. What we do is, we say, oh yeah, let's go to 7 Caesars, pick a bit of stuff up, and let's focus all of our whole study on a present day application. And I think it's not a really, it's a dangerous way. I think that maybe it's not, I don't want to say it's not the best way. If you spend most of our time here in the history, you're far less likely to make a mistake when you spend a little bit of time making the application. So that's what I want us, that's why we're spending so much time making sure we get all of this correct, so that when we make an application, we can just say, yep, it just means that. And we can do that in 5 minutes, because we're sure about the history, we're sure about what these events really do mean. If we can spend all of our time, or most of it, should I say, in this background work, it makes it much safer, and you need to spend much less time manufacturing things or twisting things. I'm not saying that with any axe to grind with anybody. let's look at what it means in the present. It's going to explain the past, and now it's going to explain the present. What's happening in the present? Before we do that, what do we know about the second angel? Remember, it's different to the first. We understand that. The first angel's message, what was it doing through this history? It was running through this history. We don't have a problem with that because this is, the midnight cry is the first angel's message. Yeah? When we come to this history, the dynamics are different. We've seen that. So we're coming here. What do we need to add here? We've got the midnight cry. This is these angels. What do we need to add? Sorry? Someone said?
I was thinking because 1840.
Just tell me what you said.
Two.
Two what?
Two midnight cry. Because the other one we have written the
Okay, so we've got the true midnight cry. The second angel. Remember, it's right here. The second angel. So we want to add the second angel. So there's a present experience that we need to talk about. So what's the present experience? Let's go with the first one, which is the second angel. So let's talk about what's going on in the summer with respect to the second angel.
Here they were fully satisfied for the reason why they were stored there. They were firm.
And how do you know they're firm?
Because the past experience has been explained to them. Now they can see the reason why they are separated from their brethren.
Okay.
There is a united voices.
Okay, so I'm going to back out and say the united voices. What do we know about the summer that Ellen White says? In the summer?
They preach second angel's message.
So, in the present experience, they're going to speak. It's the first time you're going to hear the second angel. It doesn't speak here, even though when Ellen White describes it in this passage, she says a light, a voice. We have to determine when that voice is going to be. So Ellen White says it's first mentioned in the summer of 44, and this speaking is, as my brother just said, it's an explanation or a confirmation of all of that we had here. This is what's going to happen in the present.
I was thinking, despite the disappointment, the second angel comforts them. They receive a comfort message that behold, the bridegroom is going to come.
Yeah.
And they also understand that they are fulfilling the parable of the 10 virgins to the end.
Okay, I'm going to do these angels in a minute. I'm just going to do them separately. They're the ones that say, behold, the bridegroom coming. The second angel is saying, Babylon is fallen.
I want to take us back a little bit.
In our discussion or back here?
No, just the first part.
Okay, here?
Yeah. Ellen White also says that Ezekiel 12, 21 going would also help to explain that.
So we'll put Ezekiel 12 here. We should have done that as well, yes, thank you. Forgot. Anything about the second angel? So Brother Robert already mentioned that GC 376, now they see the second angel, the experience of these people going from bad to worse. So he speaks and the behavior worse. It's worse than it was in the spring, so it's escalated. Anything else? This one? So we've got the second angel, we've got the true midnight cry. If there's nothing more with the second angel, then we'll add one more on, because what else did we read? There's a voice. And that voice, so they speak the second angel, and there's a voice now. And what is that voice? Second Corinthians 6, which says, "Be ye separate, touch not the unclean thing." So now there's a present experience going on that says, don't touch the thing that is unclean. They've understood here what's gone wrong, and now they see this present experience. So what's the present experience here? That the Protestant churches are now manifesting uncleanness, which is some kind of satanic behaviour. So we've got the voice, the behaviour is worse, that's why they're saying it's unclean. So the behaviour is worse. And then let's go to the angels, which is Matthew 25 we've got, 2 Corinthians 6:17 we've got, and the second angel is obviously Revelation 14 and Revelation 18. So, what does it mean, behold the bridegroom cometh? What is happening in their present experience in fulfillment of Matthew 25?
Because at midnight where they were awakening, because that they were traveling, they had gone to sleep in. When they reached at midnight, when they had that voice, many of them were.
I'm looking at the historical context of what's happening in the present. That they know that Matthew 25 is being fulfilled.
I was thinking of the separation of the two classes.
Separation of the two classes. And when does that happen?
As in when there arose. It's not quite clear.
Okay.
Yeah, in connection with the persecution and mockery, at midnight prayer we saw fanaticism ending. Fanatics.
When?
Summer.
The story. Because that's what Brother Andrew was saying. Saying the same thing. Separation, fanatic, ending. Okay, Brother Brian? When? I know that. History.
So at Exeter camp meeting.
Exeter camp meeting. So, behold the bridegroom cometh. Let's look at that. So I'm going to put Boston, Concord, and Exeter. What is Boston going to give us? My brother, what does Boston give us? This is the present experience that they're having, and something just clicks for them now.
It gives the first proclamation of the experience that they've been having.
Okay? But something special about Boston. You're right, but I'm looking for something else. Something special that happens at Boston. It doesn't happen anywhere else. I know it's the first. I'm okay with that. Someone's already mentioned it before. It's already been mentioned. It's already on the board.
Or in regards to the analogy of the night.
So can you walk us through that briefly?
Okay, so someone tells the congregation that
begin with. Did you hear that? You didn't hear? Oh, good. What rule is he using? It's good. You heard that one? Oh, I thought you gave me the answer.
While I think he's teaching in parables.
Okay, louder, Brother Rogers.
Year-day principle.
He's going to use the year-day principle. 1 day equals 1 year. Carry on. You know that, I'm sure you know that, yes.
Yeah. So if a day equals to a year, he poses the question, and taking the night, a night will have been half a day. And he poses the question, for how long have they been in a tiring time? And he goes, they've been in a tiring time for 3 months. So therefore, it will mean that at that particular point in time, they were at the midnight. And based upon that argument, he also points them forward to the remaining portion of the night.
So, is everybody okay with that? If you never knew that, did that make sense? Okay? I think most people know he's going to use day for a year. He's going to say we're at night time. Why? How does he know they're at night? What is there? Because someone before wanted me to put something else there. What did you want me to put there before? And I said no. Light. You wanted me to put light there, and I said that I don't want to put light there, because I don't think it is light. And what's Snow's argument? What happens here?
There's a sleep. Night begins.
Because what ends?
The day ending.
The day ends because there's no more light. They've got light here, but the light has ended. There's no more light. What is light? Anybody, what is light? Truth. There's no more truth. They have no message. Light is the message. They have no message here. So it's not that they have light, there's no light. That's his argument. We have no light, so therefore we're in darkness. I think one of them says we're in the stupid dark night or something like that. So there's darkness, so he knows we're at night time. So then he's going to use the argument, night time is 6 to 6, half a day, and then they do this calculation. I'm not sure if he does the calculation or if someone else does the calculation. Is it he does it or someone else? When is that Boston?
Yes, question. This is question.
Okay, so he understands all of this? So they're going to do this, half a day, 6 months, and they're going to say they're exactly midway. And they know they're exactly midway. What do you need to have before you can know you're midway? The entire period, you need to know the beginning and the end so you can work out exactly what the middle is. And they've got that. They've got the first of the first month and the 10th day of the 7th month. Is that a right way to write that? No. Because they don't know that this is what? They know it's midway. What is this? Are we all okay on the same page? Okay, this is the 5th of the 4th. Do they know this is the 5th of the 4th? They don't know that, so they're not using this Hebrew calendar to do that. They're using Gregorian calendar, April the 19th, October 22nd, and they use the Gregorian calendar to work out that July 21st is midway. So that's what Boston's going to do for them. A present experience. They're going to preach it presently, they're going to work it out presently, and they're going to say, yes, this explains what we saw here. Concord. Anything for Concord? Nothing? As far as I can see, we only have this one-liner that it says, he went to Concord and he did what? Sorry? presenting the midnight cry. I think that's all we're told about that. Concord is not the only, it's not the only time they have meetings at Concord. We could go to the name and start doing stuff with that, but that's all we have here. Exeter. What happens at Exeter? Brother Andrew? You told us before. What happens at Exeter? Do you remember what you said? There's a separation at Exeter. And my brother, someone said? Fanaticism. So the separation, the fanaticism ends. So if you haven't seen those studies, ask someone where those studies can be found and you can review them. There's a whole symbology around that, Watertown, etc. Exeter, New Hampshire. Exeter, New Hampshire means basically the same as Watertown. You have those two groups being identified by the symbology in the place where they came from. They have two tents. So this is where the fanaticism ends.
What if you give the number 3,000? You want 3,000 for Exeter.
Do you want to put 3,000?
Yeah, in the other place you put the 300.
So you know there's 3,000 in Exeter?
Yeah, they also the camp meeting was 3,000.
Okay. So you've got 3,000 there, and we had 300 here. So that's, I like that. Anything else about Exeter? We know a little bit more about Exeter. Rogers? Exeter. We've discussed this before. Sorry? Okay, so this is where we can mark the cry. Who's preaching? Sorry? Okay, we've got a horse, which you don't do much with nowadays. There's a boring sermon. That's bait. So, what does that show us? How many messages are there?
One.
Two messages. One message is a dead message, which needs to be silenced, and there's this new truthful message. There's two messages. One is the dead message needs to be silenced because it's not the present truth message, and there's another one that's the present truth message.
Was this message wrong? As in doctrine, was it wrong or it was not just present truth?
What did he say our situation is?
Like a sheep lost somewhere in the flock.
Is that error or truth? He says we're a ship without a compass, we don't know where we're going at Exeter. Is that truth or error? It's wrong, it's not the truth. It's not just a boring sermon, it's actually a wrong message.
That's what I wanted to understand.
It's horrible, isn't it? So you've got two messages.
They have two messages.
There are two messages, and one's true message and one is not the true message. It's not error in the sense of it's a lie, like it's false, but what makes it error? What makes it wrong?
It doesn't give direction.
Sorry?
It doesn't give direction.
Why doesn't it give direction? Because what is he not doing?
It is not fulfilling the present duty.
He's not explaining what happened in the past. He doesn't know why we're lost. He just knows that we're lost. He doesn't know why. He's not explaining what's happening in the present. He doesn't understand about midnight. So he has this message which basically says, since April, we've been lost and we're still lost. At the very moment why God is saying, you're not lost, all of this has been explained. And when did the explanation begin? We could mark it beginning in February. No one's listening to snow. But by the time you get into the April, May time, the message is there for people to listen to if they want. By the way, why does he go to Boston? Why does he even go to Boston? Sorry?
Was request to go back there.
I didn't hear what you said.
That's where most of the meal are gathered.
Yeah, but so I'm asking why. I guess they've already answered. He doesn't say, I'm going to go there on a Sunday afternoon and preach. He gets invited. So someone's inviting him. Why would they invite him for?
Someone has listened to me.
Stos agreed with this message.
So someone already knows this message. He's not the only person. The message is already in the movement. I'm going to say it's already been accepted. All we're now looking at is an increase. Even though we mark a hard point, this is an increase. There are people who understand it. If Stores understood, I'm guessing his wife understood. I'm guessing Snow is married. His wife understood. Their friends would have understood. There are more than just these two people. Someone publishes his article, April. Does anybody remember the date? 3rd, is it? His letter from February? Is it the 3rd? April the 3rd? 22nd of February? 22nd of February? No?
First published, second published.
Say, give me the dates again.
February 16.
Is the letter?
Yeah. Published 22nd.
Published 22nd?
Published
April the 3rd. So, even without going into the details of what he's saying, we know that that's the beginning of this work that he's doing. So, we're back here, so we don't only have Fitch, or who else do we have now? We have Snow, and even though we normally want to connect all these letters in a sort of sequential fashion, I'm saying if we put them into the two dispensations, we have Snow. We have, what was the first date? 16 February, 22nd February, and 3rd of April. And then the next one is May. That's the next one we're going to have, May 2nd. So, he's getting to Boston because someone's inviting him. He has a 40-mile drive on horseback to get there. So he gets to Boston on horseback. He gets to Exeter on horseback. So, what else do we know about this structure here? It's the 21st of July, and Exeter is August the 12th, and this is August the 1st. And what do we know if you do the calculation? It's what? It's midway. So we know that Concord is midway. So you've got midway and Boston is midway. And if anybody's ever done this, I haven't, I don't know, I'm just thinking about it now. If that's midway, that's midway. I wonder if this was midway between something and something. I don't know. We can talk about that. All three of them are midways. We did some.
That when you look at the structure of close of probation, second advent, close of probation is midnight, second advent midnight.
Because they're both midnight, yes. Everybody understand that? If you come here, close of probation is midnight. We know that from Genesis 32. It doesn't say in Genesis 32. You have to go to Patriarchs and Prophets to show that. Page 186, paragraph 2. 186? 196. PP 196, paragraph 2. It's midnight. And Christ's second coming will be, it's just something like it's the midnight of Earth's history. It's going to be midnight here. So you've got midnight in midnight. And you want to take that structure and bring it here? So we know this is midway. And I'm suggesting that this is midway as well. But I haven't proven it. I don't know where your start and end date would be. You'd have to do something funny with the calendar. But I think it's probably worthy of an explanation. So we've got the 3 camp meetings, or the 3 meetings that he attends. He's on a horse. I don't know how he gets to this one. So you see the horse being brought to view there. There's a lot of little bits of detail. So that's the present explanation. It's going to tell you about the future. Let's quickly do that. What you're going to do about the future. Prepare. So what we're preparing for the future. What is the future? We're preparing for the 3rd angel's message. They were preparing here for the 2nd angel's message. Here's the preparation of the 2nd angel. We saw that here. So we'll put 2nd angel. That's what you're preparing for. And we're preparing for the 3rd. We saw here a message of the 2nd. So we should begin to see something about the 3rd here. How are we preparing for that event? We've got the Spirit Prophecy quotes. Early writings 248 and 260. So we know that. That's the preparation.
I wanted to say, behold the bridegroom cometh on October 22nd.
So we've got the message of behold the bridegroom coming itself, which is the preparation. Behold he's coming. So we know he says, get ready because he's coming. Someone had to have that? So part of the preparation is behold the bridegroom coming. Matthew 25.
They even preach and you see some people separating from the other churches.
So you see people coming out of the separate churches and joining them. How do you see preparation there?
As we prepare to meet the bridegroom, there's a work that they are doing. They are calling people to join them.
Okay, so again, this behold the bridegroom coming, Matthew 25. When they make that cry, people come and prepare and join them. Anything else?
Snow's message is preparing them to receive that.
So we've got the early writings passage, and we've also got the true midnight cry. What was the code for that? TRMC. The true midnight cry, and that's going to tell us about Christ is going to move from the holy place to the most holy place, so you can prepare for that. So we've got that piece of information. Anything else?
Message spread rapidly. Can you say that goes worldwide or not really?
I'm not sure.
Become the living temple.
The living temple? Who's the living temple? The people who are giving or the people who are receiving? Those who are giving.
Yeah, because those who are coming are being attracted by those who are.
Okay. I think Ellen White says those who had the living temple or who were the living temple joined them. I think we read that.
There was a 7th month movement.
Okay, so prepare for the number 7, the 7th month. What else? October. Sorry? October the 13th. October the 13th, it's 10 days before, October 22nd, is the Feast of Trumpets. You need to warn the people that he's about to come. If you're about to warn the people that he's about to come, what is the Feast of Trumpets for? To prepare you. There are people teaching in our movement now, by the time when you get to the midnight cry, it's too late to prepare. That can't be correct. If we're going to mark in this history, this is after Exeter, that the movement is now saying we're at October the 13th, at least historically. I know we're going to make October the 13th. I don't know where we're going to put October the 13th. You're going to put October the 13th and lay it over August the 15th, 14th. I don't know what we do with that. But October the 13th is the preparation call to get ready for what's about to happen. So we can't just start having a message that says it's too late to prepare. If you haven't prepared already, you're done for, it's too late. How can we be saying that? When the type doesn't teach that, because you have to follow the laws of the type to understand how the anti-type works. Okay, we've run out of time, so tomorrow we'll round up, summarise what we've learned here, and see what applications we can make. Some of the things I want us to think about. Where does October the 13th fit? Where does August the 14th and 15th fit? Where does July 21st fit? Where does August the 1st fit? How are we going to deal with those things? Because they're four separate histories. Do we overlay them? What do we do with them in our history? Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we give you praise and thanks for your goodness and your mercy. Please help us to have a watch care over ourselves and over our brothers and sisters. Bless us, we ask and pray in Jesus' name.